think okay, I think she's in now. I'll be letting people in if they come in a little bit later.
Great.
But everybody, if you want to unmute, go ahead and unmute, because as Kathy's going through the presentation, feel free to just jump in with questions. She'll also answer questions at the end, but you know, don't be shy. This is great that we're able to have Kathy Stewart with us to talk about the core collections, the digital versions of the core collections. We all probably have those books that are this thick.
They're they're book stocks.
You know when they come in the mail, you know exactly what it is.
Yes, I remember getting them too.
This might just be something else that's an easier way to check on your collection and learn about what should be kept and what shouldn't be kept. So I'm going to turn it over to Kathy. And
thank you.
If you want to unmute and chime in, please feel free to do so.
Oh, thank you, Kate. I'm going to turn off my video because I don't want to see myself. But I wanted just to say hello to you all before I do that. I mentioned to Kate that I'm a librarian. I worked in a large public library in South Carolina for about 14 years before coming to Novelist, and I was a children's librarian first. So you'll notice as I speak, I tend to harken back to my roots. I draw from children's literature for a lot of examples that I use, so bear with me on that. But I'm really excited to be talking with you guys, and anybody who joined early was privy to Kate and I just talking a little bit about issues that I know that you guys are probably facing. And some of the questions, oh, by the way, I have my chat turned on too. So if you don't want to do that whole Zoom mute, unmute thing, I have my good eye on the chat. And so I will keep tabs on that. So feel free to just comment or ask questions. And as Kate said, please do just jump right in, because there's nothing worse than waiting for your question or even forgetting it as somebody's yakking away. So I know how that feels. So don't hesitate. So I kind of lobbed some questions to Kate, which I'll just throw out, and just feel free to chat in reference to those things, and just along. And it's just for me to kind of get to know you and the kind of issues that you're dealing with. So I was asking Kate about your collection budget, whether you consider it to be healthy, and how you balance those perennial requests for all the hot series titles that people want with kind of making sure you've got a good balanced collection. So those are things that I always were on my mind. And I was hoping that you occasionally are the recipient of grant money or other kind of found money type situations. So I was curious about that, if that ever happens. And I was also interested to know vendors you use for purchasing and whether you take advantage of things like standing orders. So those are all things that I was just trying to get a sense of you, your budget, the kinds of things you normally do. And that way I can help you kind of assess whether core collections can, kind of plug in to the things that you're already doing, and I could help you make those connections. So just feel free to chat as you wish, or you could always send me an email later, by the way. I'm going to put my, let me go ahead and put my email address in here so you will have it. So you could ponder those things and just share thoughts later. That is perfectly fine. So of course, all Reader's Advisory starts with a great collection. It's kind of the whole point. It's why people come. And Pew Research really bears that out. Really, it's interesting with all the things like maker spaces and programs. It's still really books. Books are the driver for people coming into the library. And I say coming in knowing full well, as Kate was mentioning earlier, that I know that you guys are experiencing having to do curbside and having limited service, limited people coming in, but they're still accessing your materials for sure. They're just doing it from a distance, of course. And thanks to Christian for putting in some, oh, Baker and Taylor, gotcha, okay. So just putting in some information in the chat, appreciate that. So you see from this slide, I'm not, this is no news to anybody who is dealing with good service. That collection development, it's just a work in progress all the time, of course. My own library, I felt like we did a fairly decent job of weeding, especially when I was in the children's room. But we tended to kind of skew toward weeding for just physical condition and not doing a whole lot of analysis. We tried to spot check areas of the collection along, as I'm sure you guys do. But I know what a struggle it is just to try to think about things like space, or think about things like, wow, when's the last time we looked at the astronomy collection? So it's really interesting, and it's a challenge to kind of figure out excellent ways to fit that in and make it regular and make it kind of a habit and a good practice. So I know where you're coming from, I think, as best I can. I've been out of a library for a while, but I still remember what it feels like. So what we're hoping with Core Collections is that you'll get a sense of how you can just use Core Collections, the online version, because I heard referenced by Kate about the print books, and I do remember those. They're pretty big. And I will try to make some contrast between the print version and the online version, so you could think about that too and do some comparison as you're listening to me. So you can hopefully just quickly have a means to be able to research new titles, be able to kind of streamline how you weed, and then think about what areas in which you might want to grow your collection, and when that might be a good practice, and just ways that you can do that and ways that we can help you with that. So what I'd really like to emphasize, I think more than anything, is something that Kate said. It's something I feel very strongly about, which is, you know, your community. Christian put in your budget materials. You guys know, you know your practice, you know what you do, you know your budget, and you know your community, which is a number one most important aspect of anything that all of us do when we think about developing a good collection. So what we endeavor to do with Core Collections is just give you all the facts and all the information you need to do what you do. We want to just make sure we don't have any kind of skewing toward any certain publisher or anybody. We don't. We just want to make sure we give you all the tools you need to do what you need to do. And so the way we do that is that we've got a team, of course, of librarians. And these are folks who have, they've been around the block. They are people who've worked in libraries, they've worked in schools. Some of them have been committee members, ALA committee members, so they know their stuff. They're all well-read. They all are avid, readers and practitioners. So these are the folks who do the good work for Core Collections. And what they do, which I hope is something that will be super helpful to you, is that they come up with these different recommendation levels. Because anytime you're considering whether or not to add something, to take something away, you just want to get a sense of, and almost even a validation of those choices that you're making, because you are the stewards of your county's money, or whatever entity funds you. So you'll see that there are categories that I hope will make great good sense to you. One of them is, the first one is essential, and they're not in the order of priority, by the way. They're just in an order depending on what your needs are. So of course, essential ones are just those must-have titles. Those are those ones that have that staying power, that you know you want to get, that you wouldn't be without. So those, I think, are ones that a lot of us kind of gravitate toward. Recommended is also equally important, and it's just a way that you really want to make sure that your collection is well-rounded, so that you've got some, especially in terms of things like nonfiction, you've got really some pros and cons with things that are, things like social commentary, that you have new information about anything science related, of course. So just making sure it's just a nice, solid, well-rounded collection. And then supplementary, the reason I was asking you about whether or not you occasionally get some found money, that's when you get some unexpected boon. My library usually benefited from, we had a very active Friends of the Library group, and we often got big chunks of money in the summer to help us with supporting school summer reading lists and supporting buying extra copies for things like the summer reading program of any titles that really lent themselves to whatever theme was being covered. So we were lucky in that regard. And we also got some early literacy grant money often, because we really went after that in our community because we had that need. So if you are the lucky beneficiary, as we were, of just some extra money, this is a way that you can really spot check just certain things that you might want to do a little bit more digging, and always have some ideas at the ready if you should be the lucky recipient. So those are the levels that I think I'm hoping will be helpful to you. So this is, these next slides are just kind of some scenarios that really might be ones that resonate with you, just depending on what it is that you would like to do. So maybe you've just got some certain areas like this that, especially during the pandemic, this might be an area that people, you might be hearing more from folks about. So it's easy to do kind of broad searches in core collections. And as we go through the PowerPoint, if we have time, we will go through, I'll take you into core collections so that you could really, we'll take a closer look and just really do some searching so you can see what it feels like to actually work in core collections and not see a PowerPoint slide like this one. But just know that you can do broad searches like this and then kind of drill down and add some of those limiters so that you can really make sure that this is the title that you're really interested in. So that's one thing I wanted to share. And then something else too to know about, and this is one of the advantages I think of having an online version rather than a print, because you can actually do some comparison against your local collection holdings. So I know I don't have to spell out how helpful that would be, just to think about something like, you know, like that aforementioned astronomy example. If you might want to, you get a book coming in, it's damaged, and you think, wow, you know what, I haven't looked at this area in a while. I want to see what we have and just see whether I should even bother with this or there's a newer version. And so this is an easy way to do kind of a spot check just to see, hey, what have we got anyway on this subject area? So it's really easy to do that, and that's a big advantage over the print version. And also just I'm kind of stating the obvious, but our digital collection definitely gets updated more regularly. So it's as up to date as something can be, I think. So that's something else just to know about print versus digital version. So when you think about weeding, and I know that, and Kate was talking a little bit about this, about just with the pandemic, I know it really altered that whole flow, everything from purchasing to getting books back in and having to quarantine books, and then deciding, you know, wow, do we even put them back on the shelf? And maybe you need to create more shelf space because you're having to quarantine things. So a lot of decisions, I'm sure, got a little bit altered or even out of whack because of the pandemic. So hopefully you'll see that I think core collections can really be helpful in terms of just making some of those decisions, those basic everyday decisions about things that happen. And by the way, this astronomy example that I keep tossing out is because I think we actually had a situation that there was I think it was Pluto. There was the change with Pluto, and we were shocked to find that we had books that were just a little bit more out of date than we wanted them to be. So that's why I'm giggling, because I'm remembering real life for me. And also we had in our collective biography section, we actually found some very old boy band books that had been there for a while. So that's why I'm giggling a little bit, because it's so easy for that to happen. You know, you just don't always give each particular Dewey area your most rigid attention. So you really can rely on things like those recommendation levels. And you'll see when we go into core collections that you can actually spot check by Dewey number, by audience, by age level. And so you can really spot check areas as you see fit, as you think you need to. Sometimes, like I said, just getting a book in the book return might prompt a closer look at a certain area, as it did for me. And then also just thinking about space, just thinking about multiple copies. We were talking, Kate, about digital versus print. You know, do you want to maybe go more digital, less print? So just thinking about what's considered a priority by the core collections team that we utilize to do the work with us can kind of help you make those priority decisions as well, I think. And then something else too, folks who already are Novelist users, I'm hoping you're familiar with folders. I'm really, really a big fan of folders. And I have to say, when I worked at a library, I had Novelist. I used it every day, but I never used folders. And now I consider them essential because I just, I use them in my work every day. And so I'm quite the fan of folders. So you can access those same Novelist folders, EBSCO folders. You can access those from within core collections. So you can see an easy example here. Just start making some lists of books that maybe you want to keep a running list of books that you want to consider. So if you do get that found money and you have to spend it quickly, which is often the case with grants, that you've got that nice wish list that's already developed. And the cool thing about folders too is that you can share them with each other so that you guys can all take a look. You can dump titles into a folder, or you could do things like thinking about books you want to read. Maybe you want to get one other person to weigh in. So it's an easy way to take advantage of that and just really keep those running lists going. And I just, I don't remember anything. I just will tell you, I have folders about books that I've read this year. So folders to me are just one of those great tools that just make things very super simple. So just wanted to mention that. And then the other thing too is that you can also take advantage of, in addition to that nice folder functionality, you can take advantage of search alert functionality. And I'm also a big fan of that, because this is another way that once you decide maybe, so let's follow that astronomy scenario, if you will. So you get that book, it's damaged, you decide, oh, we need to take a closer look at this area. And maybe you come up with a really excellent search string. I just want to know when Core Collections adds titles that meet whatever criteria is of interest to me, you can do that. So you don't have to keep coming back in and thinking about it. You can set up that search alert, and it's going to give you information about those particular titles as often as you would like. And by the way, if you haven't done this in Novelist, you can do this in Novelist as well. You know, if you get an interesting reference question or somebody wanting a particular kind of book, it's not your wheelhouse and you just want to remember how you got there and just be able to recreate that, it's a really great strategy to use. So that's something else to think about too, so that you can always keep up without having to put a lot of effort into it. And so this is really what it's all about. It's that nice, you know, that dance really, that tap dance of weeding, depth of collection, budget. It's the thing that all of us do all the time, all year long, every day. And so what I'm hoping is that Core Collections will give you just some kind of a streamlined kind of tools to help you with just kind of doing that dance every day and keeping that balance. So that's kind of, that's really what it's all about. So I'm going to just X out of this, and I want to take you into Core Collections. And I need to share the screen one more time. So let me do that since I'm switching gears. So just 1 second, it should still be loading. And now you should be seeing the Core Collections homepage. And so unless I hear otherwise, I'm going to assume it's all golden here. So, and now I need to find my chat again. I'm going to open that back up. Okay. I'm going to make the screen a little bit bigger so you can see a little bit better. Okay, so I just want to kind of just talk through a couple things here. So first of all, we've made some changes to Core Collections, and you'll find that we've got some excellent materials over here on the left. We've got this whole thing we call the reference shelf. So if you're interested in how we develop our collection and you want a reminder of what those recommendation levels are, you can always turn to this document and access this really quickly. So you can read all about just how we select the collection that we put in Core Collection, because we, you know, choose books regularly. We add them and weed them just like you do all the time. And so you'll see that titles change. But again, if you just want another quick look at, hey, what does essential mean again? It's really easy to access this as you work in Core Collections. And also, of course, as with anything, you can print it out if you would like to do that. So I wanted just to show you that it's there for you. We want it to be accessible and easy. The other thing that we did, we talked and got some feedback on this too, actually. We put together this weeding checklist because we heard from lots of people that, hey, we need some help with this. You know, we want some best practices recommendations. And so we found some and we put them in because I know that it just varies library to library, staff member to staff member. So we thought, you know, we'll just put some in here so that you always can just have some place to turn to and take advantage of this and start thinking about maybe some practices that you would like to implement. And you'll see too that we provided some other sources for you here as well, just so you can always have some ideas for some strategies at hand, and also to talk about with other staff members. So all of that, again, is found here in the reference shelf. And since you guys are Novelist users, I thought you might be interested to learn that it's actually been within this calendar year that we added novelist genres to core collections, because we wanted to make sure that anybody who uses Novelist could take advantage of some of those super accessible subject headings that we have in Novelist. So you'll see that we've got kind of a smattering here in this document, just so you can see really quickly some ideas of things that you might want to search. So this is a great way to get some ideas, or maybe, as we were talking about earlier, you've got just certain areas that you haven't taken a look at in a while. For me, it would have been at my branch, food writing, because boy, I did not do a good job of updating cookbooks or anything. So everybody's got their area that they either really tend or they really kind of ignore until something makes them pay close attention to it. And maybe I'm just talking about myself. I'm sure you guys are just a lot better than I was. But anyhow, just know that they're here, and you'll see a link to a document that if you don't know about it, it will also help you in your novelist work. And it's called The Secret Language of Books. It's all about our story elements, which are all those components. It's really an umbrella term that refers to all those different components that either draw a reader to a book, or they make somebody think, oh, well, that's not the book for me. But at any rate, it's great information that's helpful, to both you and your patrons. And it has all those things like writing style, pacing of a book, types of characters, themes, genre headings. And so it's a very, very super useful book. And we wanted to make it easy for you to access here because you can just download it. And I already opened it up. I have it right here at the ready because I'm so loving to talk about it. And I think that you'll find it extremely useful. So if you don't know about this book, please come back and take a look after this session. It will really help you. And we've actually had patrons ask librarians if they could get a copy of this because they use it for their book clubs, because they wanted ways in which they could structure some book discussion. So this is a really excellent tool. And the other way that I use it is it's a great way to talk with readers about things that are important to them as readers. Sometimes people don't know what it is, or either they can't quite articulate it, but when they see it, they go, oh, that's what I like. I like that. Racy humor. Oh, okay. You like racy humor. Great. So it really helps people break down and be able to articulate just what it is that they like. And my sister is a school librarian, and she used this book with great effect with her fifth graders. They were doing they did a book club one year. She does book clubs every year, but one year she decided to do a Newbery book club. And she wanted kids to pick what book they would think would win the Newbery. And so they did. And so as they got together, they kind of broke down and talked about different characteristics. So this helped them develop some critical thinking skills, and it helped them understand and put language to some things that were really helpful to them. And so I just happened to land on this, honestly, not planned, but this is another, if you don't know this illustration term and you are somebody who does story time, that is a search you want to do in Novelist, because it's going to get you those books that have that really super big and bold art that are easy to see from a distance. So I did a search string in Novelist, and I have a search alert to this day for it, big and bold, and then searching review language for books with surprise endings, because that's my jam. That's what I always really liked. I love to see kids jump, when you really pull the rug out from under them. So anyway, I digress. So that's the secret language of books, and if you don't know about that, you will so want to know that. So it's accessible here from within Core Collections. It's definitely accessible to you from within Novelist. So go back and take a look if you don't know about that book, and you will, that's worth your price of admission today, I have to say. You will love that. So we were just here under Reference Shelf, Novelist Genres, and you'll see that there are some FAQs, user guides, all the usual help stuff that's, it is helpful. So I just wanted you to see where those things live. So I wanted to show you that. So now I'm going to do a search. So just think about something like, well, I'll tell you what happened to me this week. I heard about this book that I've never heard of. And this book is called Punching the Air. Did not know about this book. I did a training session this week and somebody mentioned this book. And I just said to myself, how is it that I don't know about this book? So in case that ever happens to you, if you're doing curbside, somebody says, hey, you really need to purchase this book. You guys don't have it. And you think, whoa, never heard of that book. That happened to me a lot with kids, and they would always recommend series that I'd never heard of, probably every week as a children's librarian. So if you run across something like that, this is also where Core Collections can help you. So this is a great book by E.B. Zobway, which again, I had not heard until this week. It was 2 days ago. So notice that when I do this search, you get a lot of stuff. And that's good and bad. It's good if you don't know anything about a book because you get reviews, you get articles that mention this title, you get all kind of great information. So if you, in that instance, with this example, if you need that context because you want to make a good decision before you decide to order something, this is the way to go. Super broad search like that. If instead you just want to get right to what's specific about that book, you can click on the limiter here on the left. It's one of those ticky boxes, and it will update. And in this instance, it's just going to take you right to that book. And maybe that's all you wanted in the first place. So I wanted to show you the difference between doing it those two ways, A. And then B, I wanted to show you this is also where you can activate your link to your catalog so that you can see. Maybe you think, God, that sounds familiar. I'm not sure we have it. So you could think about it, get that good information, and then go ahead and check your holdings and make sure that it's one you have. And then if it isn't one you have, this is where those folders come in handy because you actually have that folder icon. It's light blue on the far right, and I'm hovering over it right now. This is where you can add it to your folder and start that wish list that I was talking about. So I just want to show you that kind of, I'm trying to think of scenarios that I remember encountering because I got book suggestions all the time from people. And this is a great way to just think about it, stick it in that folder so you can go ponder it or talk to your colleague and then come on back and think about whether you actually want to order it. So I wanted to show you that. And I also wanted to click into the book record just to show you the kind of information that you get. So you'll see that you get all of the usual bibliographic information that's so near and dear to us. And then notice too these subject headings. This is where you see the novelist subject headings coming into play. Novels in verse. If this were books to a movie, you would see that heading here as well. So you can easily see the bibliographic information. You can get some reviews and then go ahead and pop that book in a folder. So I'm going to show you really quickly where the folder information is. If you come up here on the right, you'll see that it knows me. It says, hi, Kathy. So you'll see that, and we can actually go in. I'll show you some of my folders so you can see what I'm talking about. So this is what I do. I have folders for everything. So if you've got some grant money, this is where you can stash. Maybe you want some STEM books. Maybe you want to consider ordering books to support a book club effort. I always make a summer reading theme folder because guess what? I can never remember the theme or books that support it. I just want to have that ready when I want to make a display. I want it right there. So just anything. And oh, this is from my sister. She had a teacher who wanted books, picture books that had a question on one page and an answer on the next page. And through a lot of diligent effort in Novelist, I found her some. And with all of these folders, you can see that you can share, you can email those lists out to either each other or to patrons. And I'll just show you a couple of examples of search alerts. That one I mentioned because that is so my favorite. And we actually have a genre heading now in Novelist called Storytime Standouts, books that are perfect for story time. So you can just take advantage of anything that's difficult for you that you just don't want to have to think about. You just want to make it easy on yourself. Take advantage of those folders. So the flow there would be to think about what you need and set up your folders first so that it's kind of like unpacking. You know, you want to have a place, a drawer to put them in or a closet at the ready to accept those titles. So set up that folder first, and then you'll be all set when it's time to do that work that you're doing. So that's one thing I wanted to show you about. The other thing, something I didn't mention, that aforementioned example where I showed you that you have a lot of articles, you can also save articles to your folder too. It's not just titles. So just use those folders and make them work for you because they can really definitely save your time. So I wanted to show you that. And I also just thought I would tell you about, again, something else. So there was another book that I read. And this made me think about a situation I had when I was a branch manager. I had different people in my community interested in different things, and we had a lot of avid gardeners in my community. I think there was a garden club somewhere. Anyhow, I was always getting people who were making suggestions to me about gardening books, and I had a very tiny branch, so I had to really think about what I wanted to have. And so somebody just mentioned this book to me, which I happen to have read, and so that reminded me of the whole gardening thing at my branch. So something else that you can do is that you can think about a title like this. And again, we'll just go into the records. You can see some of the subject headings assigned. So you can actually do a search based on those subject headings if you want to do it that way. And so I was thinking about searching something like a subject like, I think one of the ones mentioned was, I'll have to go back because see, it's already right out of my brain. Garden science writing. So you could do a search like that, gardens science writing. And we may not get it exactly right here, but I just wanted to show you that you can actually kind of tune into a specific subject area. And then again, check against your holdings, add to the folder. But there's another way to go about this from the advanced search page. And that's what I wanted to show you. I almost think in this instance, the advanced search page is a little bit easier in many respects. And I'll show you why. So if you go down here to the bottom, you'll see that there is a box for Dewey range. So you can actually search the Dewey number assigned to gardening. And you don't even have to put any limiters in. You could limit to maybe adult level. That might be something you want to do. But even if you don't, you could just see what's there. So you could search. And then once again, you can start to do some limiting. You'll see that there are 120 different titles here. So if you wanted just to get some ideas for a certain specific Dewey area, you know, like we were talking about earlier too, just thinking about different areas of your collection that you might want to work on or things based on information that people told you about. It's just a way that you can just get right to that section a little bit faster and easier. So I just wanted to show you that. I'm going to click back into that advanced search page and show you also that you can do some combinations too. Maybe you just want essential books that have to do with that particular subject area. So you can do that too. You can combine essential books. I just want to see essential books that are about gardening. Or maybe you want to really take a look at a certain grade level, or maybe you want multiple grade levels. So you can do some combining here. And since I'm a children's person, I know we had avid interest in my community for Lexile level information. So you can search a Lexile range and just get some ideas for books that are appropriate for a certain age range. And, you know, that might be something useful. It might not. It depends on, again, your community, what's going on, the kinds of information that people in your community find helpful. But I just wanted you to see that there are lots of different ways to get at those different subject areas. And there was one other thing that I just wanted to make sure I showed you. Yeah, we talked about articles and books. The other thing too is when I use this drop down, you can see that you can take advantage of things like these 2-letter field codes so that if you wanted to start really, again, refining your searches and then start to make things like a search alert, this is how you would go about doing something like that. So I'm going to pause for a second because I've just been yakking away here, and I wanted to see if there are any questions immediately. So as I await any potential questions, remember too that right here from the home page, you can actually start just browsing in different areas. Like maybe you just want to see, I just want to see all the good stuff, all these essential titles. Let's just see what that looks like. So you'll see that you can sort these. They always come in date newest. So you can do a little bit of sorting. And this is where also on the far right, you can do things like set up that search alert that I was talking about right here, this RSS feed. So that's something else to think about too, as you start to target different areas or think about, hey, what do we want to bolster with the money that we have this year? You can start to think about and target. And it could be that essential titles are a nice starting point. So you can do things like that as well. So I think that's all the overall, just kind of high level pieces of information I have for you. So something else I'll mention is that you're very welcome to do a trial. Most all people like to trial and just have a little bit of time to think about it and ponder and just kind of work in it. And one thing that we are now able to do with trials is to give you access to a local collection. It's not your local collection, but you could see just against kind of a generic collection what that feels like in terms of thinking about your workflow and how you set up just working with maybe playing around with some particular essential titles or other areas, Dewey ranges like we were talking about, certain age levels, and then getting that feel of that workflow of saving things to a folder, checking against your holdings, and just seeing if that makes sense for you and how you do your work. So if that's something that you think might be of interest, we're definitely happy to set that up. And I know that you've got a super high-powered sales team in Jim Jacobson and Jackie. And so between the three of us, we can answer questions for you or help you set that trial up and activate a local holdings collection so you could just play around with it a little bit.
Kathy, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So this, right now you're just in the children's core collection, but there are 6.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you have the same search capabilities and everything in each of the fiction, the graphic novel, middle and junior high, nonfiction,
Yes.
and senior high.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yep, sure do.
Okay.
And that's something else to think about. Some folks just maybe purchase one core collection because they know they want to, say, work on graphic novels or maybe they're books for youth. But of course, we recommend that you get all of them because at some point you're looking at all aspects of your collection. So that to me is just more of out of a practicality issue than anything.
Okay.
And something else. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to ask if anybody else had questions. I mean, you can put them in the chat or unmute and feel free to ask Kathy any question you might have.
Yeah, and I also, while you're thinking, I made notes. There were other things about print versus digital that I wanted to make sure I called out. One is, again, we update the digital, of course, much more frequently, as you can imagine. You're able to check against your local holdings, of course, in a way that you can't with a print version. I mean, you can, but, and Mimi, I see that you wanted a ballpark on costs. I did not see if Jim is with us. I didn't look
Mimi, I've got that information.
Okay, great.
I have all
I was going to say that I know that they would be happy to provide you with that. You have access to the novel's subject headings, and you also can get usage statistics, which might be something helpful to you as well. So.
Anybody else have questions?
I have a question.
Hey, sure thing.
Hey, so when you can compare the collection, you can compare what you have to the collection in with. Sorry, my cat's running through. So when you compare your collection to what's in core collections, does that include the e-resources such as what's available to us through Libby and other e-books we have, or is it just the physical materials?
My understanding that it's just the physical materials.
Okay.
And that's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. I forgot to mention that, but that's, I think that's important for you to know for sure.
That would definitely be a great thing to add. Since more and more, content is online. And for me, I purchase for Overdrive for our members. And, sometimes I go in and I'm like, oh, geez, this one James Patterson is expiring after the 52 checkouts or whatever. And is it worth it for me to get this one that might be 10 years old? Or so, yeah, that's always that would be a great thing if that could be added.
Well, I'll double check on that. I'm pretty sure, and I'll check as soon as we hang up, and get right back to you on that. But I'm pretty certain that it does not. But thank you for that suggestion, because that's something else that I do, is definitely bringing feedback from demos like this to our product team, because of course they're keenly interested in feedback. And obviously, if it doesn't have things that are useful to you, then, you know, what's the point? We want to make sure it's good and useful, and that we keep growing it. And thanks, Jim. I got your chat. I didn't mean to. I feel like I interrupted you, Jim, so apologies for that. So Kate just entered pricing information into the chat in case you're wondering about that. So thanks for that question, Mimi, and I'll get back to you on the e-resources.
For the trial, Kathy, is that just you would provide us with a link and a login?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's similar to like how the Novelist database trial runs, but yeah, you could have, anyone could have access, and I could get the local holding set up, as I mentioned. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jim or Jackie, that usually they run for a month. So that's something to keep in mind, that you would, you know, you definitely would have plenty of time to work in the trial. And yes, it is an annual subscription. I saw the chat question.
When you connect to the local connection, is that, how difficult is that? Is it basically just throwing in your, you know, the web address? I mean, is it?
You mean in terms of the trial, or if you decided to purchase?
If you decided to purchase and they wanted to tie it to their collection to see what they have or maybe what they don't have.
It's actually a pretty straightforward process. It's something that our support team would work with you on, and they could speak tech person to tech person.
Okay.
But it's not, and that actually covers the extent of my knowledge. I feel like it's a little like sausage making, and I'm not privy to that for sure, and I'm not going to misrepresent and say that I am. But I will say that I know it doesn't take a long time, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of need for back and forth or anything. I think it's pretty straight up. What kind of a catalog do you guys have?
Everyone, there's quite a few different ones in White Pine. We don't have a shared
Oh,
ILS.
gotcha. So it's, gotcha. That's what I was really getting at. So not a shared. Yeah. Thank you. That's perfect. That's what I wanted to know. And Kate, thanks for the question about the different categories. Kate just added those to the chat. So it's children's fiction, nonfiction, graphic novels, middle and junior high, and then senior high. So got the whole gamut. And I know it's a lot to take in, so I think I'll put my email again in the chat in case you missed it and it got buried. I'm putting it in now, and also again, Jim and Jackie and I can definitely help you after we hang up. Oh, that's a great question from Pam. Is it possible to subscribe to a different one each year? Jim and Jackie, do you have thoughts about that? No one's ever asked that before. That's a great question.
Yes, you can do that. The pricing is such that you do get discounts if you get multiple collections. So it's not like each one is based on its own. So there is price breaks that come along with getting collections, but you can order individual ones. And like Kathy said, the nice thing is they're updated a lot more readily than the print volumes. So even though the prints are really rather large, you seem to get a lot more information, because pining through those indexes can be pretty tedious.
Sure. And also the space, just the space alone is something to think about. And different folks can access at the same time and communicate. And then also you can access it from anywhere. So those are things to think about as you're just thinking about, again, your workflow, how you do your work, what makes sense to you guys based on how you currently do things. And I'm just trying to remember and point out all the things I've heard other folks ask, and also just some facts so that you've got all the information at your disposal.
That was one of the nice things they added, was the remote usage.
During
this pandemic, it was really nice to be able to work from home and still get a lot of weeding done.
Right. And that's one of the things that again, I'm just trying to highlight and remember things that people have mentioned to me. And the things I told you were things I jotted down from my last demo that people said, because I asked them, I said, do you have the print? Well, what do you like about it? And they told me, I said, well, here's some other things to know. So I just wanted to, again, just try to highlight and clarify that. Oh, the other thing, the award winners are here too. And of course, I already confessed that I'm a children's librarian and I'm thinking about Youth Media Awards. It's almost the time. And so that made me think of award winners. It's just nice having all of that there on the online version in case that's something that's important to you. So I wanted to just, again, to call that out so you knew, again, just all the facts, just things to know as you're thinking about what's most helpful.
Anybody else have questions? I'm sure as soon as we hang up, they'll be like, oh, shoot, I should have asked that. But as always.
Well, again, that's what my email is for. So I'm at your disposal. And so is Jim. So is Jackie. So we are all here. And I know how it goes. You will have questions, and it's okay. You can. Just email us, ask us. And just ponder the whole trial thing and just let us know what might make a good time frame for you. And we can get that set up whenever it might be convenient.
Hi, Kate. This is John. You shouldn't talk about me like that. You know I'm going to call you with all kinds of questions after this. No, thank you very much. This has been very informative.
Oh, I hope so. Thank you. It was our pleasure. We really, just want to get the facts out there and just let you decide whether it's a good fit. So we are delighted to help.
Well, and I have to say, I think we'll probably definitely do the trial. I mean, it's always nice to try something before you buy it. So
of course, I would feel the same.
So I'll be in touch with you guys about that.
Okay, that sounds great.
One thing, this is Jim, one thing to mention as we are signing off, you've got a great opportunity to use Novelist Plus through Mel. So if you do need any help with that, we're all ears as far as being able to give different videos. If anybody has not set up a Connect account, we're streamlining our support so that if you have questions about different, because we've got over 60 different Mel account resources available to you in different database forms. That's a lot to really absorb as you're looking at all the holdings that are there. But in the database world, if you haven't set up a Connect account yet, let me know. I'll take you through the steps and send you the forms, but it's a great way to get support from our team. So just a couple housekeeping notes while I have such a large audience. So I appreciate your time.
Oh yeah, and let me jump on and piggyback from that. Oh, Jim, I'm so glad you mentioned that. I have this document that has links to some really great novelist training materials. And I would be delighted to send that to Kate to forward to all of you. I see some of you nodding, so yes, okay, I'll do it. So good stuff. We've got just a nice newsletter that's just right. It's just once a month. It's short and sweet. It's very practical. And we've got product page information that has blog posts about how to use things like core collections, why you should care. So I'll send you links to those things as well as a follow-up. Because it's hard to keep up with everything. So I think just having some specific pieces of information in one email that you could turn back to might be helpful, just to help keep you up to date on the novelist good stuff. Because we keep adding subject headings like that Storytime Standouts. I'm super excited about that if you can't tell already. And we add other genre headings like nonfiction that reads like fiction. So we try to make it really practical, usable, and make sure that you know about those changes. So I will send that to Kate, and I hope that will be helpful to you guys.
Also, Jim, there's a question in the chat. What is a Connect account? Would you elaborate a little bit more on that for us?
Sure. So all of our support had always gone through connect.ebsco.com. So what we're working on is making that the hub to be able to handle all of our support questions that come in. So if you have an actual account, which is set up through the support team, you'll be assigned a case number for every time you have a question. It's a website that you can go to where you can find videos and things for training, different user guides. It's where we're going to house all of our information. So before it was just kind of a free-for-all website, but if you have an account number with us, then you'll be able to personalize your experience for those type of things. We're working on a whole user experience for supporting our products, and that's the first step in doing so. So I'd be happy to send out an email with that info.
It's really awesome too. I jumped on to take a look, and I can't say enough good things about it. In kind of a niche academy kind of way, it just houses everything together, which is what is always helpful to everybody. So you can just pick and choose, like Jim said, of what you are most interested in, and just you want one little aspect, you've got all this stuff gathered for that one thing that you're most interested in. So it's super useful, and I'm not a designer, but the word that comes to mind is clean. The design is clean. It's lots of white space. It's really easy to navigate. So it's great. You'll love it.
Kathy, one question on the screen right here where it says searching children's core collection, and then to the right it says choose databases. Is that where you would click on if you then wanted to go to the nonfiction collection? Or okay.
Right. And you can do any broad search, and then you could limit to a specific core collection. That's kind of the flow.
Okay.
And that way you can just really target. So for example, for that aforementioned astronomy or gardening, you could do your broad search first and then just start to drill down.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course.
As you can notice, though, the recent additions don't always stay to the core collection.
Well, I will look forward to future questions, and I will be sure to send you that follow-up email with kind of a recap that will have links to some of these things that I talked about today, so that you'll have access to those in one email. So just let us know how else we can help, and when might be a good time to trial, and we'll be in touch and continue the conversation.
Great. Thanks so much, you guys. Appreciate your time. Thanks everybody for attending too, and I will then be sure to forward that information on to you guys when I get it from Kathy and or Jim. So, okay.
Hey, thanks again. We appreciate your time very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Oh, you too. Take care.